Hi, I'm Rohan. I'm a 25-year-old lawyer and I want to reverse engineer my vision of a fulfilling life. And so I thought I would have conversations with people having different experiences than mine and hopefully learn a thing or two. Our guest today is Rohan, the entrepreneur behind the bedding business Kansso. And he's here to speak about his experience building the business and how he has done so with his significant other. Let's get into it. Rohan is my paddle doubles partner and a very good friend as well. He is half the brain behind his brand Kansso, which he runs with his girlfriend Rohan. And today we're delving into his entrepreneurial journey with Kansso, despite and having his prior experience in film where he worked, and all the things that he's learned running a business with his partner and in his entrepreneurial journey. So thanks for coming on, bro. And first question is, what's the best piece of advice you've received and how has that helped you?
So I think the best piece of advice I've ever received, and I think a lot of people our age really resonate with this kind of advice, is to learn how to enjoy and be in the moment. I think a lot of people kind of get lost in looking forward to the next amazing thing that's going to happen in your life, including me. Like, there's something I'm guilty of all the time. I'm always looking forward to something.
Yeah.
And when you're looking forward to things constantly, you kind of forget to really enjoy what's happening in the moment. Like, I've been talking to a lot of my friends about this recently, and I think a lot of people now look back at maybe 10 years ago and be like, holy shit, 10 years have passed, it's crazy. And I think
know.
time really flies the older you get. So it's important to really enjoy the
People
moment
take
you're
the
in.
journey for granted, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I think just saying yes to as much as you can as possible and really being in the moment are the two best pieces of advice I've ever got.
But do you feel the flip side is if you say yes to so many things, sometimes you lose sight of what you truly want to do to go to that next step?
No, for sure. When I say yes to everything, I mean like within your limitations.
Yeah.
Like as much as you feel comfortable saying yes to within like just so you don't take too much onto your plate, but you should try to push yourself to do as
New
much as possible,
experiences.
at least during your 20s, because the older you get, the more responsibilities you have, the more your time is consumed by things. Now, like, I think everyone should take as many risks as possible. You should go to as many events as possible. Obviously, like, me time is important, but now is the time, in my opinion, to really enjoy experiences and really put yourself out there as much as you possibly
And
can.
like create memories worth a lifetime. Because I guess the responsibilities that delve in when you're older, they sort of weigh you down, and right now you're at your freest in a way.
For sure, and not just memories, like even from like just a work standpoint, like for some people, maybe coming on a podcast may not be, the most comfortable thing, but like putting yourself out there, like this is the best time to do it. Even for someone like today, I think personal branding and creating your own content is so important, but a lot of people don't have the courage to do it. But like saying yes to those kinds of things and really pushing yourself and putting yourself out there.
And what you're doing with founder-led content with Kansso. So I want you to speak more about how did Kansso come about? Why specific brand? Why was it bed sheets initially that you all looked at? And what was that whole journey doing it with Rahat, your girlfriend?
So like you mentioned this in the intro, prior to Kansso, I was working in film. It was a pretty short stint in film. Unfortunately, I think I worked in film at the worst time possible because it was COVID. You weren't really enjoying being on set. It was like a closed set. It was, at the time, I worked at this incredible company, Jugaad Motion Pictures. I think it's run by the two most impressive and charismatic people, Dar and Dheer. So I actually learned a lot just about handling people and running a business through them and just watching them. But in terms of film, I realized very quickly that it's not necessarily what was for me. So once I was done with that, I kind of realized that I always want to start a business and I wanted to do something myself. And I was just looking for opportunities. And one of the trends I noticed at the time was people were spending a lot more money on their homes. And the reason they were doing that was because they were spending a lot more time in their homes because it was COVID. But Rahat and my personal opinion was that obviously COVID would end and things would go back to normal. I know it seemed quite endless at the time, but at least that was the hope. So we wanted to do something that was going to outlast COVID. And I think as India becomes more aspirational, people crave a better product.
Completely.
And I believe that bedding is something that India is really great at producing. We have some of the finest cotton in the world. But at least in 2020, if you went out to buy bedding, you didn't really have a lot of options. Most of the bedding sector was quite unorganized. Just people going to random stores and picking up stuff. Or, the main brands that people really thought of was Bombay Dyeing, which doesn't have as much as a presence now as they did maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, because they're obviously refocusing and restructuring their business.
Yeah.
So there was a great opportunity. Personally, the reason I really wanted to do bedding was because I hated the floral sheets that my mom put on my bed. And I didn't really have much of a choice at the time. So when I came back from college, I wanted to create something that I liked. A little bit about Kansso. What we do at Kansso is, I think the buying bedding is actually a lot more complicated than it sounds, right? Like you're thrown, as soon as you walk in a store, there's just so much jargon that kind of really overwhelms you. There's a thread count, there's which fabric do you want, there's which weave do you want. When I went to college, this is something I experienced, and there was like just too much to pick between. So when we decided that we wanted to do bedding.
And how does it make a difference? Like you mentioned thread count, you mentioned weave. Like what are some of the primary differences that you notice in the experience of bedding depending on these two?
Just to kind of give you an idea, right? Like everyone has a different preference for fabric. At Kansso, we only do 100% long staple cotton for our bed sheets and our duvet covers. Now, in terms of thread count, right? Thread count essentially means the number of threads per square inch of fabric, which basically means the higher the thread count, the more threads per square inch.
Okay, which means it's softer?
No, not always.
Okay.
So essentially, the general principle that people follow is the higher the thread count, the better, right? But that's why
misconceived?
Yes, while it's partially true, it's not necessarily the whole truth. For example, there's different weaves, like I mentioned, right? Like there's a sateen weave and a percale weave. Now, number one, when you hear sateen, many people automatically think satin.
It's completely different.
Sateen and satin are completely different. Sateen is a weave. It's just the way that the cotton is woven together. So a sateen weave, for example, just because it's woven 3/1 under, can have a much higher thread count than, for example, a percale weave, which is woven 1/1 under.
Okay.
When you have like 3/1 under, for example, you can go up to like 1,000 thread count. Now at Kansso, and for example with percale, when you have 1/1 under, you can't really go much higher, right? Because the fabric, like when you go like this, kind of restricts how many threads you can.
Was this like a process of osmosis for you to figure out what kind of weave that you all wanted to sell at Kansso? It must have taken a lot of time for you to figure out what works for you.
Of course. So, for example, like with a percale weave, you can't really go higher than a certain thread count because of the way it's woven. When people hear thread count, they usually think that the higher the better, which is kind of true. But for example, now to answer your question about like figuring out which was the right thread count, automatically when we started, we wanted to do the best quality, and our minds kind of went towards 1,000 thread count. But the more research we did and the more we learned about fabric, we kind of realized that 1,000 thread count's not necessarily the best, right? Because like I said, thread count is essentially the number of threads per square inch. So if you have like 1,000 thread count, that's going to be a lot of threads per square
inch. It's going to
be
heavy.
Which makes the fabric a lot heavier and a lot less breathable.
Yeah, of course,
So there is a sweet spot for where you should be, right? Which is why at Kansso, what we do is we essentially save you from a lot of bullshit. We streamline the process. In percale weave, we have like 1 thread count. In the sateen weave, we have 1 thread count. They're both 100% cotton.
Completely.
The point,
and it also helps in making your house your home. Like if you get like high quality bed sheets, it definitely helps in that process, because I think, as you said, Indians are getting more aspirational, and therefore you want to upgrade in your lifestyle, and one of the best things you can do is sleeping on something you're comfortable with.
No, absolutely. I mean, you spend 33% of your life in bed. It's really important to be incredibly comfortable while you're in bed. People aren't necessarily... it's one of the most underrated things, right? Like sleep is so important today, and if you're spending so much time focusing on improving your sleep, your bedding is what you're spending all that time on. So it's not just a personal or a biased opinion, but your bedding really contributes in a big way to how well or how badly you sleep.
But do you think that you found a good night routine for yourself to help you get that adequate rest beyond just the bedding? Have you found like a good balance?
I mean, personally, I'm not the best person in terms of routines. Like, I do a lot of my work at night. I stay up late. I'm a night owl. My partner, Rehat, who's also my business partner, I'm sure we'll speak more about her, has a much more balanced routine. Like she's in bed by like 9:30, 10, and she's asleep by 10:30, wakes up at 6. I'm awake until at least 2 a.m. And
I try to get him for a game and paddle in the morning, and it does not happen.
I can't move in the morning, so I don't want to I don't want to ruin the game by being immobile.
Yep. Sure. But anyway, so segueing into running a business with your partner.
Yeah.
I'm sure that has immeasurable challenges early on until you
Yeah.
find the right balance, right? What were some of the hardest things initially? Like, how do you disassociate the person you bring up as a boyfriend versus a business partner and have those difficult conversations? Like, what was those what was that early phase where you found a balance?
So to be honest, I don't think it's about finding a balance and then that's it. It's you're still finding a balance because dynamics and things keep changing. So it's important to be agile and to be able to make those changes to kind of balance each other out. It's like anything, like even in a gender relationship, sometimes the other person's doing more of something than the other.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I would say it was honestly easier, like when you just started, because everything was so exciting. And at the time, we were obviously still working from home. But as Kansso got a lot more serious, as we were spending a lot more time on Kansso, I think that's when it starts to get harder, because in the beginning, you're so invested in every decision. You want everything to be perfect. So you kind of step on each other's toes a little bit. I think one of the best things we did was defining our roles. Rehat deals with what she deals with. I deal with what I deal with. Rehat's obviously a lot more operations. I'm more marketing.
Got it.
So we have very defined roles, so we're not really stepping on each other's toes, which really helps. I think compartmentalization is one of the most important things.
I'm sure that must have been hard, no, initially as well. Like, must have come through practice.
Yeah.
You don't. No one, I think, is easy to compartmentalize.
100%. So the hardest thing is when you're working from home in the beginning. It's kind of like you're shitting while you're eating, right? Like you're spending all your time at home, but you're also working from home. So it's very hard to find a distinction. Which is like, I feel like we did the hardest stuff in the beginning, and because it was when we were excited, it wasn't necessarily that hard. I think now that we have an office, it's way easier to balance stuff out. Like when I leave office, I'm a different person. Obviously it's not always smooth sailing and that easy, but it's important to understand that like the work personality is not the personality when you leave, because emotions obviously run really high, and it's also really important to be able to understand what your partner needs.
Yeah, in that moment.
Exactly.
Whether they need a business partner or they need a boyfriend.
Exactly.
Right? But like, I'm sure there are instances where that would mix completely, right?
Yeah, all the time. I would say the hardest part of running a business with your partner is there's like absolutely no filter. Like it's quite savage. Like if I'm not doing something, I'm gonna get cut into pieces. Like there's no,
because no one knows you better, right? At the end of the day,
and like you're so comfortable with each other, right? But that's also the best part about running a business with your partner. You're able to share with each other like what you have in mind. It's just important to make sure the way you put it across and the way you
did something
accept it
differently. Like at the start of, like, now looking back, I'm sure there was some massive hurdles for you all while you sort of started building Kansso together. Was there some, now looking back in hindsight, if there was advice you would give to like a couple just starting their new business together, having found a medium yourself, what kind of advice would you give them?
So the first advice that I would give is just be really sure of each other. Like Rehat and I had been dating for a really, really long time. We kind of knew that like we were comfortable enough where we kind of thought that, we were going to build a life together. However, obviously things change. Like anything can happen at any time. So I think you have to be
certain. In that moment?
Certain
in the moment.
But again, I don't know if this is the best advice, because everyone feels certain in the moment, right? Like,
of course,
when you're with someone, you're with them because you obviously really enjoy it.
Completely, I'm with you.
So I would definitely say like you should be comfortable with the person. You should trust the person blindly, and you should really, really speak to other founders that have started businesses with their partners, because it's not easy. It seems like it's going to be the easiest thing because you're so open and honest with each other and stuff, but like you said, compartmentalization is not easy. It's really hard.
I struggled with it. Like I struggled with it in all aspects of my life, at least in the past. Where if I'm like working, and if I'm working super long hours in the law, and if I'm stressed out about a deliverable, somewhere consumes you.
100%.
And that percolates. Now, if you ask me to come play paddle, but I have a deliverable that's due after I finish playing, at some level it's in my head. Or if I'm shooting a pod on a Sunday, but I know I have to go home at work, it's somewhere in your head. It affects like your relationship, it affects your friendships, it affects like family, it affects everything. But now you're two buckets in one. Like, so that's why I wanted to know that what have you learned about yourself through the whole compartmentalization process? Or how would you advise someone to get better at it?
It's a very, very subjective process. Like,
Or what's worked for you?
so I would say for me, what's really worked is understanding that rehat at work is not necessarily rehat at home.
Yeah.
Like, when you're at work, you want everything, perfect for Kansso. I also think what's really, really important is, like, no matter how much you want to bring something up related to work, when you're in your own, like, relaxed personal time, you should hold yourself back. Like, there's something that, I'm still learning and getting good at, because obviously as founders, you really care about everything. So sometimes you want to address things instantly.
Yeah, of course.
But sometimes you have to just let it go and wait until the next morning, or until, when
I think it's a very like life advice as well. Like just recently, I brought my mom's also a lawyer. She's a solicitor. She runs her own firm.
Yeah.
She is working really late and was very stressed out about like one of her matters that was going on. I, at that time, had just finished my work and I wanted to bring up something between us. I brought it up when she was neck deep, super stressed in the work, and that obviously freaked her out more because that was not the right time to bring it up.
Yeah.
But I realized that in hindsight now, that I could have been more empathetic and waited and been more patient and brought it up in a space and environment where a conversation could have happened, rather than selfishly being like, this is bothering me, I'm going to bring it up now.
Exactly.
And not being like receptive to it. Because if she only told me that, if I told her in a mindset, in a headspace where it was calmer, it wouldn't have kicked off into an argument where she was stressed out. It was not the right time. I could see her stressed out, but I still brought it up. And that was a huge learning for me. Like, you can hold your horses sometimes as well.
No, 100%. I think that's, I think you said it best. Like, sometimes you really got to hold your horses, whether it's related to personal things. Like, you shouldn't bring up the personal stuff at work, and you shouldn't bring up work stuff unless obviously it's very important post work, because you have to give yourselves the two roles that you have, the respect of the two roles. I mean, I personally think that, like, if I'm at dinner and I'm giving the person that time, like, say she wasn't my co-founder, I probably wouldn't be bringing that up. So I should give that dinner the same respect. And the same thing is, like, if I'm working with her, I shouldn't really be, talking about something that's bothering me
from a personal perspective, because it delves into that.
Exactly. And it's really important to not let, like, something that's annoyed you on a personal level or a work level get into the work or the personal arguments, because they're not related.
And from what I'm gauging is, like, something I've also realized about compartmentalization is emotional awareness. It starts from emotional awareness. Like, if you're aware about what you're feeling, then immediately you'll be aware about where to bring it up, which is hard. Don't get me wrong, it's very hard. I'm just perceptive of it now. It's not like I'm able to implement it successfully all the time yet, but it is that disassociation that occurs, and then you build from there. Like, you understand, like, I'm feeling about this in the moment, but just because I'm feeling about it strongly now, if I sleep over it, I may not be feeling about it as badly either, and I know I can always bring it up subsequently. So I think those are two very interesting.
I think that's honestly a really good point, because I feel very similarly about that.
So that's cool. But in your entrepreneurial journey, how do you learn to take your equation with Rohan out of it as a partner and a business partner? How do you mentally switch off? Because, like, an entrepreneur is always switched on because you're responsible for everything. Like, the buck stops with you, you're the biggest risk taker. How do you mentally switch off? Like, what are the things that you do?
I don't think you're ever really mentally switched off. I think you're more making a conscious effort to focus on what's in front of you, which is similar to what I said. Like, if I'm at dinner, I have to understand that, maybe if this was a personal relationship that where we weren't working together, I wouldn't bring it up at that moment. So it's important to be aware of your surroundings and give your surroundings that respect. And there's a time and there's a place for everything. So if we're at a date night, if we're, at a movie.
But, like, even let's say with friends, or like if you're with your family, like when order hasn't gone well. Right? Or I think those situations, like, I'll give you a personal example. If I had a matter that's not gone well, or if I'm working on a transaction which is taking the life out of me, if the hours are really long and I'm stressed out and I'm annoyed, that percolates into all aspects of my life, right? And I can't switch off of what's bothering me. So have you found a good balance? Because no.
I don't think it's very difficult to find a good balance. I think Rehat's better at this than I am personally. She's more matter of fact. Like, I still feel like I see things very closely. So if there's a bad order or something like that, it really affects me at a personal level. And it's something that I get quite anxious about, and it's something that I want to fix immediately. And I think Rehat's better at this, where she kind of says, hey, you know, like...
But you and I are similar because I think both of us have like perfectionist mindsets. Like we want to do better.
Yeah.
Like we want to be better, do better, achieve more, like get stuff more. But I think sometimes that can be so counterproductive as well because I think they're not in your control after a point, right? And you're looking to find an answer where there is none.
Yeah.
You just have to accept it and move on. But that's why being matter of fact really helps, I think.
I agree. And I think the really good part about this kind of where like being in a relationship with your partner is really great, where she also knows me at a personal level. She kind of knows what's bothering me and she knows how to deal with it. And it's the same, like I know how to maybe deal with things that maybe affect her. And sometimes I'm not the best at it. And sometimes she's not the best at it because obviously the waters get a bit muddy. But more often than not, we know how to, you know, really navigate the waters and kind of understand what the other person needs.
Okay, fair. But if you had to give overarching relationship advice, of course, like I'm sure there's so many hats that you're filling in your relationship here, but overarching relationship advice as a guy to another guy, honest, authentic advice, what are some of the things you would tell him if he's getting into a new relationship?
Don't play paddle with your partner on the same team. No, but on a serious note, like
you played on the left or the right?
I think Rehat and I have been together for a really long time now, touch wood.
Seriously.
So I would say what's really important is just being present, taking, like these are also things that I sometimes suck at. Enjoying what the other person enjoys, like even if it may not be your favorite thing, like taking interest in their interests. I know there's like pretty generic advice, but it's this kind of stuff that really matters once like the honeymoon period's over. This is the kind of stuff that really gets you to go a long way.
Be consistent.
Exactly.
Do you have like rituals or some stuff like that like work or like
for us? I mean, we don't have rituals at work, but like
no, like it's that work. Like, do you have rituals in your whole relationship which have helped you all stay consistent?
I think the most important thing is just talking, right? And sometimes it doesn't happen. Like, and you can sometimes feel like we haven't spoken in a while, and it's important then to like have that conversation because everything is just much better. So talking and being open and honest with your partner, even though the conversations may sometimes be uncomfortable, is probably the best advice that I could say. Like, don't just keep shit in, just speak about it and deal with it at face value.
And learning how to be vulnerable when you speak about it.
Exactly.
Also, man. Like opening yourself up.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, something I've learned along the way as well. That it's super important to show a side of you which only your partner can see.
Because the thing is, if you're not vulnerable, then it kind of builds up inside and it
eats at you.
Yeah, and like you start maybe having micro or passive aggressions, which isn't the best thing. So it's just a lot better to deal with something as soon as you possibly can. Again, easier said than done.
Yeah, but something to be aware of. So I end all my episodes with a quick rapid fire. So the first question is, why the name Kansso?
So Kansso is essentially a Japanese Zen principle that means simplicity and decluttering, and it kind of resonates with everything we're trying to do with Kansso. We have like really minimal designs that don't really do much.
And how did you find it? Like, you just like looking it up online and then you...
So Anhad, shout out Anne had fun.
Okay.
She is really good with this kind of stuff, and she actually came up with the name, and we instantly loved it. And we're like, okay, that's great.
Okay, that's sick. What is a quick lesson you've learned about selling any form of consumables to Indians?
It's important not to sell based on features, but more based on
feeling.
Yeah, like feeling, emotion. Although this is sometimes quite the opposite of what we do. It is important to, let people... I think especially in India, people are very quick to sniff out bullshit. So sometimes you just gotta let the product speak for itself.
That's good advice. What's a sleep habit of yours that you'd like to fix?
That I'd like to fix?
Your pillow.
No, my sleep habits. Like literally my sleep habits.
Okay.
I have a horrible sleep cycle. I would love to go to bed at 11 and wake up at 7. I think I want to become a morning person. It's never going to happen, but a man can hope.
Well, if he does that, we get to play paddle in the morning. Sheets, crispy white or color?
I like soft white sheets.
Soft white sheets with a specific thread count.
Yes. I like our Lux collection.
And who's stricter at work, Rehat or you?
Rehat by far.
Yeah. You're too lenient?
Actually, we're kind of like on it about different things. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Rehat's more on it about some stuff. I'm like really on it about some stuff. So
Yeah,
we
well,
balance each other.
Yeah. So Neville had left a question for you. His question to you is, what's the most recent thing, or what's the biggest thing that you've done that has pissed off Rehat, like pissed off your girlfriend, that you can think of right now, that you can say on
Dude,
camera?
that's a really big list in my head.
Yeah. He was trying to cause some conflict. So he was like, and then he didn't know that this episode, a lot of it was going to be doing a business with a partner.
Yeah.
So when he said it, it was hilarious. So what is the answer to that question for you?
Oh yeah, I kind of wanted her to do something in a certain way. And she really wanted to do it in her way.
Yeah.
And she was not happy about me stepping on her toes.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I said this earlier in the episode where we obviously, now that we have defined roles, we are really great at not stepping on each other's toes. But a couple of days ago, I kind of stepped on her toes.
Happens to all of us.
Yeah.
And what's a question you'd leave for the next?
Who is the next guest?
You don't know. The idea is you're not supposed to know.
Why are you not using Kansso betting?
Okay. And another question would be?
The plug wasn't good enough.
No, it's good. You can keep that in. But another one as well.
What is your favorite pasta in Bombay and why? Let's keep it fun.
Let's do it. Cheers, brother. Thank you.